Thank you. Thank you very much for being here. Mr. Hunter, you mentioned in your written statement that the recent flow of Chinese investments, 46 billion into Europe and 48 billion into North America in 2016, has spurred concerns across advanced markets. Since the United States is not the only advanced market generating cutting-edge technologies, unilateral U.S. action is less likely to be effective over time. I'd like to ask you, and maybe some of the other witnesses, if they have any comments to add on this, how the United States could best coordinate with other countries, either bilaterally or through fora such as G7 or OECD, to evaluate the implications of these transactions. And what should that coordination look like? For instance, should we coordinate on specific cases, or do you think we should be more general in our coordination?
Thank you, Representative Love. This substantial increase of Chinese investment, as we've discussed and Derek Scissors has highlighted, is having a political effect across advanced markets. You've seen legislative changes, regulatory changes in Germany. The United Kingdom is considering its own CFIUS process. The EU has proposed a framework as well, and then there's a number of very sensitive cases that have come up in a number of countries like Australia. I think that the opportunities for coordination are two, as you highlighted. One is on the policy. I think it would be a wise thing for this administration and Congress to engage with counterparts in other advanced markets to ensure that their legal systems, their regulatory systems, are adequate to the challenges, that are both transparent, predictable, but also address the national security issues that may be there. Second, on individual cases, the CFIUS legislation imposes strict constraints of confidentiality in the handling of information relating to transactions. That's entirely appropriate. However, those confidentiality rules could have an unintended consequence in restricting the ability of our national security officials to communicate with their counterparts. And it would make sense, it would seem to me, that just as our competition officials can communicate with their counterparts in other countries, that our national security officials can communicate with their counterparts about particular individual transactions. So I think both dimensions are possible.
So you think it should be, as far as you're concerned, all of the above, just on general policy and also on specific transactions?
Correct.
Okay. Does anybody else have anything? Okay. Yes.
So we have an example of CFIUS working with a country that does not have an investment review process already, which is the U.S. Coordinated with Germany to block a Chinese purchase of a German chip firm in 2016. We can do that on an ad hoc basis. What I think would be more useful is if the Congress, the administration, laid out principles for what they would like to guide the regime. I spent a lot of last year in Australia, in Germany, talking to governments. They do see this as a concern, as Mr. Hunter just said, but they are behind us. We're considering more advanced questions than they are. And I think the number one thing the U.S. can do to its allies is tell them what we think is most important. As practical as saying not semiconductor investment right now. That's
are we not doing
that
currently?
They don't, I don't, talking to Europe about their political process is very confusing, at least for me, but they don't perceive that we're doing that. And one of the reasons is we're having an extensive and valuable debate here. My point is the conclusion of this debate, if we adopt some clear principles about what we want to do, that's the first step, and countries are waiting for that.
Okay, so the general consensus is to make sure we have at least our ducks in a row, and then communicate that and let everyone know which standards that we're, okay. Would our European trading partners have any reservations about coordinating with the United States? As far as you're concerned, do you see any, in any circumstances where they would have some trouble or reservations about coordinating with the United States?
Well, having just been there and had this discussion, they're not going to adopt the same tactics and strategies that we are. They're actually probably more concerned about personal data. But they're also not going to get into a war over Taiwan with technology that was taken from European firms because they don't have the same military concerns. So I see the European side as more interested in economics than we are, less interested in national security. It's not that they will hesitate to cooperate, but they have their own priorities.
Okay, thank you.
Gentlelady's time has expired.